It's finally here, the PopCross Community Superhero Redraw episode. The second episode where I redraw subscribers' characters. Last one was all about monsters, this one's all about superheroes, and I got a lot of awesome submissions. And I said in one of my recent videos that I was going to try and draw everybody's submissions, but I failed at that. I didn't get everyone's in, I'm so sorry. I tried to get to everyone, but every time that I thought I'd gotten to everybody's piece, I realized there was like 4 more to do, and I just did the best I could, but there's one of these every month, so there's a good chance that even if you weren't in this episode, you'll be in a future one. But what I did get done was 11 people's superheroes. There's a lot to get to, we don't need a long drawn-out intro, so let's just get right into the drawings. Alright, so the first submission we're doing today is from Crazy Chicken Animations on the Discord, and he submitted Karate Lizard. And I was super excited to do this one because it gave me a good amount to go off of, but also room for some creative freedom to render him out a little bit more. I liked how he had a bit of a concerned look on his face. I end up adding that back in, and in terms of his pose, I give him a pretty, Spider-Man kind of pose. When I think karate, I think, he's probably a bit more nimble, he can do some cool moves, so I gave him a little like lunging over something pose, like he's sprinting after somebody and is leaping over a ledge and putting his hand down to propel himself over a little bit more, but then that concerned look, looking down at his hand makes it like, ooh, he's a little bit unsure about what he's doing. I also end up kind of forgetting to give him a tail, but partway through when I realized that, I was like, his tail would probably be pretty obscured in this pose anyway, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but sorry about that, Crazy Chicken. To give him a bit more detail, I also add some scaly kind of textures to him, but not over detailing it, just kind of putting in some big, blockier scale textures in a few different places to imply that he has it everywhere, but without needing to render out scales on his entire body. I also added a few more details in that I gave him some claws on his hands and feet, but besides that I kept it pretty true to Crazy Chicken's original idea. So here's the final result of Crazy Chicken's Karate Lizard. Next up from the Discord, we got a submission from GameLegend88 that he referred to as the Mage Gollum. And I thought this one was super cool, kind of looked like an icy version of Groot. All of these I do just cell shading, and some of them I add a little bit of my painterliness to it, that salty watercolor brush that I use from time to time. That usually came down to whether or not I thought the character needed a little bit more rendering or not on my part. Like when I finish the cell shading, if I go, this could use a little bit more, then I add the little bit extra detail. With this one, I just wanted a little bit more under his torso, the part where he's kind of bent over, and because he's a more textured kind of character, he's all ice and wood, I thought it would look good adding a little bit of extra detail to him, so that's why I put that in. And with the shading wrapping up, here is the result of the Mage Gollum. Next up, we have a submission from Abominable Snowmoose on the Discord, and this one almost kind of strikes me as like a Pokemon, Ghost Rider, I don't even know what, but I saw it and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I love the coloring on it, I love the background, just looks like a super cool guy. So I gave him a pose that was kind of fly kicking towards the camera. Because from the pose that Abominable Snowmoose gave, he kind of looks like this guy does a lot of kind of karate stuff too. So I gave him a little bit of a fly kick, and one of his hands outstretched the back with the glowing fist like to it just to imply that it's kind of metal. I'm not actually sure if that was the original intention, but this was one of the ones where a bunch of these I just don't really have any context for, which I was totally cool with because it let me kind of imagine a little bit more what this character would look like. And because his arms are a bit metal-y and kind of robotic looking, I assumed that the chest was a little bit robot-y as well, and then the other parts of his body, the more dark purple and blacker parts, were a bit more fleshy, like he was some kind of, almost like a cyborg Pokemon superhero kind of thing. He also didn't send the name of this character, which is cool, but I don't know what to call him. So someone can name him in the comments, or Abominable Snowmoose, you can chime in the comments and tell us what his name is. But here is the final result of Abominable Snowmoose's submission. Next up, we got another submission from a very active user on the Discord, Cosmic God Cyrax, and his submission, I could almost see being in a show like My Hero Academia. The superheroes in that look a little bit more I don't even know what to call it, but they look very different from like a Marvel or DC character. Like this guy's got that weird sort of tail, scorpion, spike thing, and his jacket's got some weird tendrily spike kind of things at the end. And what does that staff do? I don't even know, but this whole thing was pretty cool, and I really like the texture on the jacket. And I add that in at the very end, and I think it really makes it all look a little bit nicer. Oh, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but the spiky teeth kind of imply that to me, and I like it, so I gave him a nice big grin with those spiky teeth kind of showing a bit. And I don't actually know for sure what this guy does, but I've just decided to put him in a sort of lunging pose with his weapon out behind him, like he's gonna land and just swing it at someone. I can almost see this character being like some kind of royalty, and I'm thinking like Russian royalty, just from the colors and those symbols on his around his shoulders / chest area kind of look a little bit like the Soviet Russian logo, and I could totally see this guy being some kind of royal. Back to drawing, everybody. Hi, Holly. Next up is a submission from Sheeta the Manic, and their character is called Sheeta the Unlucky Doggo, and I love this original design. It looks like it's pulled straight out of an old Disney movie or something. Like, it makes me think something along the lines of Mulan. Like, it actually just looks like it was pulled out of a movie, and it's super cool looking, and I don't even know if I do it justice drawing it in my style. I change it up a little bit more, make it a little bit more human-shaped, as that's just something I'm one to do, especially because I'm in a superhero drawing mood. So I give him a bit more of a muscly look, almost like a bit more like a werewolf kind of thing. And I love the big ears that you got on this character, and the cross across the eye. I started drawing him in the reverse side, but then realized you would only be able to see the eye that is blocked out by the eye patch kind of thing. So I flipped the character around, drew it the other way. I also gave the character swords in each hand. I didn't put the sheaths on their body. I hope that's okay. In the first image of the two, the one on the left, the character doesn't seem to have sword sheaths. Probably should have put them in, but I just didn't think about that at the time. I'm only noticing that in retrospect. And I think that's all I have to say about this one, so here is the final version of Sheeta the Unlucky Doggo. Now we've got another character from someone we've seen before on here, Ash Otaku. And this one, I think, turned out really nicely. Even though I keep it pretty simple, the pose stays simple, the rendering stays simple, I think this one turns out pretty top-notch. Now, Ash didn't give us a name for this one, but she did specify that it was an anti-hero, and I didn't really feel that I needed to do much to change her original design to get that across, because he already kind of looks like an anti-hero. He's got a bit of a creepy face, kind of reminds me of the Joker a little bit, so I gave him like a cheeky tilting his hat down. Oh, he also reminds me of V for Vendetta a bit, just, you know, any kind of character with I was gonna say suit. I guess I don't actually know if V for Vendetta has a suit. But anyway, it got me thinking about that. The only things I kind of changed were I liked how Ash had the tie a little bit loosened. I loosened it a little bit more and added a bit of a checkered pattern just to emphasize that thing that she's got going on with the mask being split down the middle. And then I made his suit black on one side and white on the other. And then the pants I just made kind of a borderline neon red and made the shirt kind of reddy pink-ish and used a red kind of pinky rim lighting, and I just kept the whole thing kind of black, white, and red, and I think the coloring on this one turned out really nice, and it was a fun design to do, even though I usually try to always go with a more dynamic pose or like the character's doing something a little bit more interesting. I think this kind of just classic standing there, hat tilted kind of pose really worked for this character, and I think it's super cool looking. And now that we're coming up on the end, here is the final version of Ash's anti-hero. Now we've got a submission from Lord Shadow, who submitted his character Cosmic Light. And this guy, I immediately started thinking like a Doctor Strange mixed with Martian Manhunter. So I gave him that kind of like he's floating kind of pose. I guess I don't actually know if the character can fly, but if he's not actually a character who can fly, you can just say that this is him kind of jumping off the ground a little bit. I love the cape on this guy. The mask I ended up making a little bit more angular just because that's my kind of thing to do. And then the hand pose, I gave him the Doctor Strange kind of thing that, I mean, it's also, I guess it's more commonly referred to as Spider-Man's hand pose, but you know, you see characters like Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch doing that all the time. And then I gave it like a little bit of glowy light dagger kind of things coming out of his hands. But besides that, I didn't really change him up too much from what you had there. I thought there was a lot of good stuff to go off of. I also made him pretty bulky, because your version looked like he's got some solid muscle to him, so I went with a little bit bulkier frame than I often do. At the end, I started to notice that he could use a little bit more texture, so I did something that I often do with dinosaurs and monster kind of creatures, and block off part of the costume, and then wipe in a really light amount of extra shadow that just gives it a kind of streaky look, and I think that was just a nice extra layer of detail to add to this character. And that was the last of it, so here is the final version of Cosmic Light from Lord Shadow. Next, we've got a submission from Atomic Geo on Instagram, and I liked this one because there was a good amount of creative wiggle room for me, because there was no bottom half to the character, and I was watching My Hero Academia as I was drawing a bunch of these, and this character immediately made me think of My Hero Academia. I mean, maybe it's because I was watching the show, but either way, he kind of had that sort of look to him, like kind of creepy, villain-ish kind of guy. Got a bit of a Venom look to him with his mouth kind of splitting open in an eerie way and a big creepy tongue. And then he's got a mask that I don't really know what the story of it is. It kind of looks like it might be a mask that can actually talk to him or something. I don't know if that's the case. I kind of have it off to the side because I wanted him stomping towards the camera a little bit. I give him a bit of a menacing pose, almost like you would expect Venom to have. I kind of picture that he's just taken down an enemy, the enemy's like lying on the ground and he's stomping towards them, ready to finish them off for whatever evil thing they did, or however they slighted him. And I give him a bit of yellow rim lighting just to finish him off, as if it's coming at him from the right side of his body. And here is our finished version of Atomic Geo's submission. Next up, we've got a submission from Jack of All Claws, who came with a cool, really elaborate, fleshed out backstory that I'm not going to get into too much on here because I don't want anyone stealing his ideas, but it was super cool, and instead of a drawing, he actually sent me a picture of an armature he'd built of the character out of fabric and wire and stuff, and I thought that was super cool. There were a bunch of details in the description that he sent me of what the character looked like, where it had different colors and different parts of its body. I tried to stick to that, but it was very, very detailed, more detailed than my style usually goes into, so I just tried to stick with the most important parts of it, like keeping one of his legs green, giving him the prosthetic leg, which I change up a little bit. I keep it yellow, but I give it a bit of a different look. It also said he had a nail file sword, which I thought was a super cool idea, so I gave his sword a bit of a rough, textured kind of nail file look. The only other thing I actively changed besides that was I put his mask on him, but I love the crazy kind of spiky hair, so I kind of took the top of his mask off and have his spiky hair sticking out the top of it, because I really wanted the mask, but I also wanted that hair, so I hope you're okay that I added that. I'm realizing now as I'm recording the voiceover that I forgot to put the necklace on him. Sorry about that, that wasn't an active decision, it was just something I forgot about. Besides that, I like all the different colors to this guy. I tried to keep adding some gradients, in some part I just add solid colors, and then I also render him out with the same sort of textured brush that I tend to use if a character's not super smooth, and I picture this guy being pretty, well, raggedy. I keep going back to the word rag, but his name is the Ragabond. Anyway, here is the final result of Jack of All Claws Ragabond. Next up, we've got a submission from Hyper Chibi Absol on the Discord, and her character is called Talk. And she said that she got the idea from this one from the ticking animation meme, which is not a meme I'm actually familiar with, but it didn't affect the drawing of this character. This is one where it's kind of a weird case where I might have actually done less detail than the original had. I might have changed up some of the chest mechanics a little bit, may have hid them a little bit more behind parts of the suit. But besides that, I think it looks actually quite similar to the original. I just changed the pose up a bit, had the sword like coming straight at the audience. I say sword, it's kind of like, when I saw it I kind of thought of like a sword that has been taken off of a clock, like it's the big hand of a clock, and the character just fights people with that, which I think is a super cool idea. I love the idea of having the arms of the clock on the character's face be the sort of eyebrow. I think that's a really cool idea. Gives the character a nice, cool, angry look, and I like the yellow eye. Just all the colorings of this original piece was really great. The only thing I changed from it is I kind of brightened it up a little bit, just because that's sort of my thing to do. But I really like the original design of this character. I could see them being kind of like the, well, I was gonna say antagonist. That could be the protagonist too. I was just thinking antagonist because of the sort of angry look to the character. But I could see them being one of the main characters in like some kind of crazy steampunk comic. I don't know what the origin of this character would be. Actually, I guess there's a good chance you've already got an origin fleshed out for this character. But anyway, I think they're super cool looking. Don't do any kind of special rendering to this one, just kind of do my classic work through. So here is the final version of Hyper Chibi Absol's Talk. Now to wrap this all off, we've got a final submission from TJ Wilson, who sent his character to popcrossanimations@gmail.com, and there was no name for this character, but he did specify that the character's default weapon is a bow staff, so I decided to add that in. Always like a good bow staff, and immediately, because I saw the word bow staff, I just thought of Robin. And because the character's got a bigger head, makes him look a little bit younger, I was thinking like a young Robin, like when Robin first starts fighting with Batman. Not like one of the darker versions of Robin, where Batman makes him like eat rats in the Batcave or something. I'm thinking like old school, happy, jolly kind of Robin. I gave the character a leaping pose like he's leaping at the camera, give him a nice big grin like he has in the original, except gave his mouth open. I like the kind of happy sort of look. The colors make the character look a bit happier too. The only thing I changed in the costume was I added a couple more blue streaks, and then I added some like yellow lightning-y texture around him, because TJ gave the original a bit of a yellow light on him, and that just made me think, you know what, let's add a little bit more yellow to the character, because he's got the yellow belt and stuff too, and yellow and blue is a really nice combination, so I just added a little bit more yellow to him. Besides that, I tried to keep him very close to the original, even added the sort of yellow lighting on his head the way that TJ had him, tried to keep his hair very similar, and everything I just tried to keep him similar. I also make this character's head a little bit bigger than a lot of the other ones. That's just a good tip for anyone drawing younger characters versus older characters. Younger characters' heads will be a little bit bigger in proportion to their body, same with their like eyes, and sometimes I don't know if noses are usually bigger or smaller. I guess noses are usually smaller? We'll have to check into that. Don't listen to that as a comment though. The main thing to take away for drawing younger characters is generally a little bit bigger head, slightly smaller body, which makes sense, you know, we grow as we're getting older. But yeah, I could kind of see this character being someone's sidekick, even maybe the sidekick of one of the characters that we've already drawn here. And I hope you don't take that as an insult, TJ. I'm not saying this guy would have to be a sidekick. He definitely looks like he could be a hero in his own right, but I'm really on that Robin sort of track for this character. Anyway, do all my usual stuff with the rendering for this one, and here is the finished version of TJ Wilson's submission. Well, alright. Even though I was rushing a little bit at the end there, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted. It was a blast redrawing your stuff as always. And I'm sure everyone here is excited to hear what the theme is for the next round of submissions. The March video is going to be all about sci-fi. I wanted to make it a genre instead of a specific kind of thing like heroes or monsters so that I can get a bit more variety in there. I want to see your coolest sci-fi monsters and heroes and villains and whatever other sci-fi thing you can think of. Maybe even a ship. Someone wants to submit a spaceship? Go ahead. I'm also next time only gonna do 5. Haven't decided yet if we're gonna vote or if I'm just gonna pick them, but we're gonna figure that out when we get closer to the date. But that's all for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you're not already in there, join the PopCross Community Discord in the link below, or the Facebook page, even though, to be honest, nobody's really using the Facebook group, but it's still there. You can use it. You can also send me stuff at popcrossanimations@gmail.com, but I recommend going to the Discord. It's a great group of people, great place to just share artwork and chat with other artists. Very positive, lots of cool people. Okay, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'm Christian Pearson of PopCross Studios, and I will see you next week.